Hi, I'm Ian and welcome back to Astro Time Traveller. In this episode I'm going to show you a new piece of kit I bought for my setup, to put on the Esprit 120 ED telescope and to fit to my ASI 294 MC one-shot color camera, and that is this, the ZWO Electronic Filter Wheel, which came in this box, but I've actually attached it. I'm not going to do an unboxing, but what I will do is I will show you what comes in the box and show you briefly how I just put it together. It was very simple. Really, you just take it apart and put filters into to the filter wheel, and then there's a few attachments so you can set it up to your camera, etc. And as always, it just takes a little while to find the right attachments and the right spacers to get the back focus, which for this setup is 75mm. But I'll show you all of that in a while. And the reason I got this filter wheel is I think next year I really want to move into monochrome. So getting a monochrome camera and the associated filters for that. So I thought it's a good opportunity to spread out the cost, but also to practice and get used to a filter wheel. And the ZWO one suits me. I have 2-inch filters and I'll probably do 2-inch filters with a monochrome camera, so I wanted to set it up with that. I've gone for the 5 filters version, and I've put the 3 filters that I have in it. So I have an IR cut filter by ZWO, and I have 2 Optolong filters, the Optolong L Enhance and the Optolong L Extreme. So I've put those inside the filter wheel to just practice and see how it works. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly that. I'm going to show you my first time using the filter wheel, how I move to a target, how I use the electronic focuser to then refocus with the different filters, and then take some images. And I'm just going to practice on M63, the Sunflower Galaxy, to show you that. So I'm going to do it without a filter, with the IR cut filter, with the Optolong L Enhance and the Optolong L Extreme. And of course I know how the image is probably going to come out. The 2 strong filters, the L Enhance and the L Extreme, you're not going to see much of the galaxy with those, but with no filter and the IR cut filter we should be able to see some of the galaxy. So I'm going to show you all that and show you what the end result is of how that works, but in particular just how the filter moves around when you change from target to target, and how with the ASIair Pro you can do that and it just moves each time the filter and then does the refocusing, all while staying on M63. So it'll be quite interesting. If you haven't got a filter wheel, this will perhaps show you what it looks like and how it works initially. And then I'm going to learn from this over the coming months to prepare for when I do go to the monochrome route, which is something I really want to do. So I'll show you what comes in the box and how you put it together, and then I'll also show you how I put it actually onto my rig and my setup. And just the key thing is you just need to get the motor on the camera side of the setup, I think is the main thing. And then I'll show you how I took some first images of M63 using this filter wheel. So here is the manual for the electronic filter wheel, as you can see from ZWO. So rather than showing me actually putting it on, I'm just using this. So you've literally just unscrew the back with these little screws. They give you a screwdriver to do it, and then put your filters into the various slots. Now I had 3 filters, so I put nothing in 1, I put my IR cut in 2, I put my enhance in 3, nothing in 4, and I put my extreme in the 5th wheel, just to balance it round a bit. Mine all screwing because I've got ones with threads, so that made it very easy. And then you just put that back on and you're done. So it is very straightforward to do. Now if you have unmounted filters, you just got to put them in a bit carefully, make sure you get them the right side round, and they give you the little screws in to bolt them down as well. So either way you can put the filters appropriately into the filter wheel. The key thing is to make sure the motor here is on the side of the camera lens, and once you've done that, then the filters will be the right way round for imaging. So that's the only thing you really need to watch out for, to make sure once you put the filters in, it gets all set up correctly for imaging. And that's really it. And now I'll show you how I had it attached to my camera. So here's my setup with the Esprit 120 ED, and I've got my guide scope on top with my guide camera. At the back there I've got the 294 MC Pro camera. I got my electronic focuser and the ASIair Pro all sitting on the Skywatcher EQ6R Pro. But the key thing is this new piece of kit, which is the filter wheel, and here you can see it attached, and if you look closely you can see there's the big side of it, the motor, which is attached to the camera side, which I think is the key thing to do, and you really get it in tight. The attachments you get do allow you to get a very tight fitting right in front of the sensor on the camera, and then the rest is a number of spacers to get overall. I need 75 millimeters from the back of the flattener to the sensor, so I've got that with this setup, I believe. And as you can see, that's the filter wheel. I think interesting the way it's actually come here. You've got a bit of weight on the right hand side offsetting the weight I've got on the left hand side of the ASIair Pro and the automatic focuser. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how we get tonight using this on M63 and moving filters around from my IR cut filter to my Optolong L-Enhance and my Optolong L-Extreme. And hopefully we'll get some good images of M63. So stay tuned and we'll see that coming up next. So here I am in my ASIair. So I'm just going to go into my Autorun, and using kind of a schedule I've had before, I'm just going to amend that to put in the different filters I'm using. So as I said, I've used the none in the first filter, so let's do that. And we'll just do 2 images, maybe 300 seconds. I'll have a think about that. So that's the first one. And then I'm going to move to a second sequence, and this time I'm going to put in a different filter, but let's do maybe 2 40 seconds. Let's do 4 minutes rather than 5. And this time I'm going to use the L-Enhance, which I've called ENHN, and we'll just do 2 of those. So we'll change that to a light, and therefore we're ready to run that sequence. Then let's just go back to the first one, and we'll change that 300 seconds back to 240, do a 4-minute exposure on the filter, no filter, the none filter. So that's 2 we've now done. So now we can go back and do a third one. So this one will do the L-Extreme, which I call the EXTR, and again we'll just do 240 seconds for that, and we'll do 2 images for that as well. So just need to change those. So that's the next sequence in the auto run. So we've got 3 done, and now we'll just do the final one, which we'll use for the IR cut filter. So we'll just put that one in there. So there's the IR. Again, we'll do 2 images, and I've left it at 300 seconds there. But so we should be ready to go. So now we're ready to start the imaging run. So first thing I just want to do is just look at the focusing center. So I've got my automatic focuser. So I want to, you can see where it says on filter change. I've highlighted that because I do want it to refocus every time I change a filter, because it'll have a small impact on there. And if I press onto the actual filter wheel as well, if I click that one, that will go in and show me my actual kind of filter there I've got. So here you can see I've got each of them named in each of the different segments. So I'm pretty now ready to run, so we can now set it going. So you can see at the top there's 8 images to do. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to start doing the first auto-focusing. And you can see at the top there it's saying I originally had it on the IR filters, and I've now moved it to the none for my first in my sequence. So it's now moving, it says we're doing that, and it's now moving to do an autofocus on that non-filter, i.e. nothing in the filter. And you can see here it's just starting to run through and do that. It takes a little while to find the star, and I'm just speeding this up a bit to show you how as we run through, and it creates the focusing curve to pick out the best point for focusing. I've got a previous video on this that I showed when I first got my automatic focuser and how that actually works, and I found it pretty effective. Sometimes it does stall on getting into focus, and you wake up and you find out that you haven't got everything in focus, but here you can see it's running through quite quickly. I think just with the videoing on my iPad, it didn't finalize. For some reason, it doesn't video the final bit sometimes. So it did get down to a focus point on a red dot right down the bottom of the curve. But now here you can see, here's the first run, so we're 0 of 8, and it's just about concluded that first one. You can see in the top under the filter it says none. Guiding is pretty good, and wow, there's the first image. So with no filter in, that should be pretty good for galaxies. And here you can see I've got a star 2.56, so that's not a bad count. So pretty happy with that. So it's good just to look around the image and just see how things are. We could do the kind of analysis and just see on the annotate that we've got the Sunflower Galaxy in there, which we pretty much know. But I'm pretty happy with that. So the focusing seemed to work, and there you can see the Sunflower Galaxy. That looks reasonably good detail. I think it was a moonless night that I was doing, so we got a pretty good view of it from without any filter in. So what we're doing now is it's just carrying on and taking the second image, and we'll now see what happens when that second image finishes and it needs to move to the next filter. So here we are, we're counting down. Again, guiding is pretty good. It still says none on the top filter. And now what it's going to do is, as it finishes, it is now going to, as it uploads this, it will then move the filter to the next one, and it will then start to do an auto refocus again. Again, you can see at the top there, it says it's moving from none to my enhanced, the ENHN designation I've given it. And again, as you can see here, you'll start to see the stars being identified and it going through the curve for finding the right focus for the L-enhanced filter. And it took a little while to do this, but I've just speeded this up. And clearly the stars aren't quite so strong because of the filter. And there you can see there's the more normal curve. And it did identify right down at the bottom the final point of focus. I think again it doesn't really show this on here. And here you can see, so this will be my third image. It's just gone 10 o'clock at night, but my first image using the L-enhance. You can see under the filter wheel it does say L-enhance, and now it will be loading up that image. And as it does so, it's just taking a while. Right, there you can see it. So this time you'll see it's a bit darker because we're using that image, and therefore the stars will be, count will be a bit lower, 2.33. But it's got it in focus, and that shows the combination of both the filter wheel change and the automatic focuser are working well. So if you set something up in either planning or the auto run, you can see this kind of works effectively to get changes through the night if you want them on moving filters. And again, I can just go in and just check the filter settings all working right. And here we go, we're just finishing the second of those images. And as it does that, it should start to move to the next filter. But in this particular case, it's actually doing some dithering. So the first thing it will do, I'm dithering on after every 4 images in this case. So first off, it will dither, and then it will wait to get the distance back below the 2. And only once it's got that, will it then move on to actually doing the autofocusing. You can see at the top, it's already moved the filter to the L extreme, and now it's stopped dithering, it's got to the right guiding, and now it's moved on to start doing the autofocusing. And again, at the top, you can see it's moving from the enhanced to the L extreme filter, and it will now search for the star to start producing a better focus all round. It's just taking a little while to find that. There we go, there's the first star coming through. And again, I'm speeding this up a bit so we can just see how that works. That looks a bit of a weird curve, but it will just take its time to keep defining the star, and then it will find, I suspect, a more normal curve to finalize. And there it is, that's the more normal curve. And it will then get to a final point right at the bottom of that curve, now using the L extreme filter. And you can see there's the red dot right at the bottom. And here we are, just concluding the first run of the 4 minutes, last 4 seconds or so, using the L extreme. And again, this is going to be fairly dark because of the filter in the actual image we're going to see coming up, but it's just loading it up, and there it is. We've got a satellite trail going through, but you can actually see in the center there, we can see the galaxy. Again, if we do the star count, you can see that's fairly low. The filter's having a bit of an impact on that, but that's pretty good. So happy that it's kind of done that again, and then it's running off to do the final one of the L extreme, the second image of that. So that looks pretty good. And now we'll just move on to the conclusion of that second image so that we can see it moving on to the final filter. And here it is. It's just coming down the final few seconds to go. And once it's done that, it will start preparing itself to move to the IR cut filter. And it's just counting down as it's loading up. And there you go, it's jumped ahead. And at the top, you can see it says add extreme to IR. So it's moved to the IR filter. And it will now search for the stars to do the auto focusing on that new filter. And again, it's fairly quick to do this. It usually takes about 2 or 3 minutes to do the whole auto focusing run. You can see the star's probably a bit stronger with the IR cut filter than it is with either the L Enhance or the L Extreme. And we're getting that curve popping up fairly quickly. Again, I've speeded this up just to run through it a bit faster, but it quickly gets to the right focus level, and then we're ready to do our final imaging. And here we are in the final few seconds of that very first image, the 7th one overall, but the first with the IR cut filter, which you can see at the top, it says under the filter. It's going to be pretty light, I suspect, compared to what we had with the L Extreme. Yes, there we go. So we'll just do a bit of auto balancing back on the histogram, and there we can see it. So I think that looks pretty good with the IR cut filter. The stars probably look a little bit more certain because of that filter, so we're at 2.49. That looks pretty good. So I tend to use either no filter, sometimes the IR cut filter using galaxies, but I'm pretty happy with that. I think that just demonstrates how the filter wheel works, and how in combination with the automatic focuser, you could leave it running through the night on the Autorun or on the plan mode. So hope you've got something out of that, and I'm going to start using this more and more going forward. And I'll end up leaving you with the final image that I had of the Sunflower Galaxy M63.